Thank you for staying with us. Rather than a lasting solution, all we have regarding the ongoing face-off between the federal government and members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, is confusion. The federal government has made a U-turn regarding its order to vice-chancellors to reopen universities as a way of forcing the striking lecturers to return to the classrooms, following a ruling by the National Industrial Court in Nigeria. In a memo on Monday night, the National Universities Commission, NUC, instructed vice-chancellors to ignore previous memos directing them to reopen campuses and commence academic and non-academic activities. Jide, if it were to be during the military regime, it's just a matter of dissolving what they call ASUU and using fiat. But this is a democracy. So anything they want to do, they cannot bypass that, The federal government must negotiate with ASUU. They must sit down, reach an agreement with ASUU. Anything cannot be done by even committee of vice-chancellors or the chancellors or any kind of fiat.
Well, let me also recall as a historian that even during the military era, efforts were made
to break the ranks,
to stop, to even disband ASUU, but the courts stopped them. You can, the courts operate during the military era. So the courts will get in the way to say, no, these guys have not done anything wrong. People have the right to come together in the form of an association, and ASUU is exercising that right. I don't think anybody can succeed in caging ASUU. They will find a way, they will set up another body, and it will amount to a waste of time at the end of the day. What makes sense is for government and ASUU to come together and resolve this issue. Abusing people will not solve the problem. Calling people names will not solve the problem. I was shocked when I heard that VCs were told to open the,
very laughable.
The schools. It wasn't ASUU that shut the schools in the first place. ASUU didn't shut any school. ASUU just proceeded
lecturing
on a strike. And even when students embark on protest, they usually lock schools. If students say, okay, we are boycotting lectures, they usually lock schools. So the decision of, because the schools exist for students to receive instruction. That's primarily the
academic
objective of a university or any center of learning. Once you cannot do that, then
another thing.
What is the school for? All the other people, they are just support staff.
Business,
they are support staff.
Administrative
they
work.
are support staff to the academic staff. They are not more important than the academic staff. So in this case, government must have been told, I've been reading in some papers that, that it was because a court granted a stay of execution. No court has granted a stay of execution up till now. But ASUU has proceeded to appeal, and in the same breath, asked for a stay of execution of the order of the industrial court. Yes. But it could be on Friday that the court will sit and say, okay, maybe we'll grant your prayers or not. So they must have, the people who came up with this idea must have told themselves that if we tell them to reopen, and in a matter of days, the courts set aside that order, or the court says stay of execution of that order, what will then happen? Because that is a big possibility. Because ASUU's position, the position of ASUU's lawyer is that the industrial arbitration panel should first have had that matter before the industrial court, that in terms of the process, you should first go to the industrial arbitration panel before you go to the court. But government went straight to the court. So that is,
Technically,
in their view, abuse of court process. So if the appeal court listens to ASUU and says, yes, by the law, they should have gone to industrial arbitration panel first, you will now know that that order will amount to a nullity. So I'm sure they've said, okay, wait, you are going to be briefed on the next line of action and all that. But even the VCs were reluctant to implement. Remember, even Nance has condemned the order of the court. Nance. Remember also that these VCs did a memo to the Minister of Education advising him to adopt some of their recommendations. And their recommendations are not far away from what ASUU is asking for. In fact, I see no disagreement reading that memo by the VCs. I see no disagreement with ASUU. The VCs are not convinced that IPPIS should continue. They said it there. The VCs think that the salaries of academic workers is too low. In fact, they are saying that colleges of education now, that some lecturers in colleges of education now earn more than, I think, that, like rector in the college of education now,
provost.
Is it provost also, now earn higher than VCs. They said it in their own memo to the Minister of Education. So what needs to be done is look at these issues, try to find a middle ground, trying to see whether you can force these people to go to work after about 7 months, since February 14, and you've not achieved that yet. It's similar to what Putin is doing in Ukraine. He felt the war will not last more than a week. He was thinking that it will be another 1967 war, the 6-day war. But what are we seeing? Since March, he cannot get the job done.
I found the two memos very, very laughable, very unnecessary. It's even a shame that we've gotten to the point where we have to go to court. That one's already shameful. And then these people said they were going to appeal. And the next thing is let them reopen the universities that were not even shut by the lecturers in the front. They just stopped working. They are not holding the keys to the gates of the schools.
Yes.
So what are you reopening? What was shut that you are reopening? That aside. Secondly,
are they even reopening when some of the non-academic staff, have they not gone back to work? They've gone back to work.
They've gone back to work. Secondly, I think, in our context here, we say the president is the father of the nation. I think it's time that the president should act, not just like a father, like a grandfather to those students that are being homes for the past 7 months. So I am calling on the president, Your Excellency, sir. Your grandchildren are out of school. Do something about it. He has all it takes. The president has all it takes to do what? To get these people back to work. Like BKO said, we can find a middle ground. I think the lecturers themselves, they are not, they are intelligent enough to know what the issues are in the country. I don't know the issues. Even this no work, no pay, no work, no pay, it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Unfortunately, BKO, it's difficult to break their ranks.
No. Obasanjo was the one who created that portion of the law that says that before ASUU can go on strike, they must have congresses. He did that to make it difficult for them to have unanimity, to have consensus before a strike. But see the way it's working now. It's now working against government. Because before they can even call us strike, even if you appeal to them, they still have to now go and do Congress.
Yes,
Yes.
See, if you give ASUU all the money in the world, bribe them with life-changing money,
it won't work.
they cannot.
By the time they get to their local chapters,
those ones
to
will
their
say
Congress.
No. So this is that's why it's so difficult to break their ranks.
It's really my problem.
This is the situation. But the president said he will continue. After meeting the pro-chancellors, he promised that he will continue the dialogue session with other groups. Let him honor that word. Let him meet with VCs. let him meet with other people so that we can find a
solution,
resolution, not
yes.
simply be hoping that on their own, when they are hungry, they will go back to the classrooms.
Paul Dada, I want to thank you. Thank you for your contribution today. BQ, tomorrow we have an exclusive with Governor Matawali of Zamfara State.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the richest states by way of mineral resources in our country, but just wasting away. Imagine rain falls, it washes the surface of the earth, and you are looking at gold.
Gold.
That's Zamfara for you.
Very
Yes.
rich in gold.
That's Zamfara. You don't need to dig. You don't need to dig to find lithium in Zamfara. It's just there.